Czech Republic, the topic was deliberately ignored. It did not fit the heroic narrative of the Red Army as liberators. There was no room for compassion toward Germans, and in the West, the story faded among so many other tragedies. But the testimonies endure, and the tombstones in the Demmin Cemetery, many without names, without dates, without crosses, still remember those who did not want to see the dawn of a new Germany. Those who, after years of war, chose to die on the banks of their own country rather than live under the boot of victory. The memory of the enemy, the destruction of German identity and culture after the war. Despite the end of the war, the struggle continued on another level, the symbolic one, where the cultural battle was fought. It was no longer about conquering cities, but about erasing what those cities represented. It was no longer armies being destroyed, but memories, roots, culture. German identity was condemned to suspicion and punishment, not only for the crimes of National Socialism, but for the mere fact of existing. In many regions occupied by the victors, everything German was criminalized in its very essence, and thus began the cultural cleansing, the purge of books, symbols, films, or any artifact related to German identity. Where once imperial flags or regional banners had flown, foreign flags were now raised. Cities changed names. Königsberg became Kaliningrad, Stettin became Szczecin, Breslau was now Rockwar. The German language was banned from the public sphere. Signs, books, documents, and even tombstones were replaced or destroyed. Book burnings were not only a Nazi practice. In Czechoslovakia, Poland, Yugoslavia, and other territories, entire libraries were incinerated, German schools were closed, and cultural archives were looted or disappeared. German literature, music, and art were considered toxic residues of the past. A 1946 report from the Czech government detailed the destruction of more than 2 million German books in Bohemia and Moravia, as they were seen as instruments of German propaganda. Many of them were not political works, but classical literature, philosophical treatises, local histories, poetry. Everything spoken in the language of the defeated was reduced to ashes. Churches were desecrated, hundreds of monuments were blown up or torn down in public celebrations, and cemeteries of German families were destroyed or, worse, looted. Crosses were torn down, tombstones used as building materials, and human remains desecrated or scattered. In many Polish villages, the bones of German soldiers or civilians were exhumed and thrown into anonymous mass graves. Memory was erased along with the marble. In the Sudetenland, dozens of German Catholic parishes, some dating back to the 14th century, were burned or converted into stables, warehouses, or military installations. Religious images were decapitated. Bells